Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I'm Miss Abby.
And I'm Mrs. Kraft.
And we are happy you're here to learn with us, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and we're here with English Language Arts. Just to remind you, we have an essential question.
We do, and we've been working on this essential question for a while now, and it is, how do authors use narrative elements to write a story? So remember, we've been talking about different kinds of stories, right, Miss Abby?
Yes, this week we're focusing on fictional or imagined stories.
Right, as we did the nonfiction last week when you wrote your SCAR story.
Definitely.
There are different kinds of fictional stories, right?
There are. Today, I think we're delving into
the dun-dun
mystery. It should be a lot of fun. Before we get too in-depth with that, it's Wednesday. That means today is Vocabulary Day. We have some new words for you. So if you have your notebook to write them down, go grab it quickly. All right, see you soon.
Thank you, Miss Abby. So welcome, learners. As Miss Abby said, it is Vocabulary Day. And so remember, we're working on our vocabulary words in that model. So we're working them in your writing journal, and we're creating this sort of diagram for them, right? We called it the Frayer model, where you write your word in the middle. We're going to write a definition, a sentence, a synonym, a word that means the same, an antonym, a word that means the opposite, and then the fun part, the illustration. So if you have those drawn in your notebook already, awesome. If you don't, no worries. You can do that when the show is over. If you'll just jot down the word and then maybe a synonym or a definition just to remind yourself. And then that's good work to go back and do later when you have some free time after the show is over. All right, let's get started on our first word. And you know, when I do vocabulary, I love to show you a picture because having that image can help you remember that word and help your brain remember it, and then you'll be able to use it again. Our goal with vocabulary is to get you to use these words because words aren't important unless they're actually used. So let's work on that. The 2 words I want to show you today or introduce you to are related to mystery writing. So remember, mystery stories are stories that give you clues. They use our same elements of fictional writing, except they build the tension to that climax, and then they give you some falling action. So a mystery story is a really great way to learn those elements of plot. And so to do that, the first thing a mystery story has to do to make it a really good mystery story is create our first word. Let's take a look at the picture that I have up here. What do you see in this picture? Do you see a little boy over here? And what looks like he's hiding behind something, behind maybe his sofa in his house. And he's watching. This, believe it or not, is a TV. Kind of an old-fashioned one, right? Looks like he's watching something on the TV. Look at his eyes. Does he look a little scared to you? It's almost like he wants to watch the TV, but then he doesn't. So how do you think that little boy is feeling? Does he look scared? Maybe a little nervous? Frightened? Maybe that's a little strong. I don't see him crying or anything. It just looks like he's a little bit intense, doesn't it? So what do you think is a good word? If you could choose one word to fit this picture, what would that be? I'm going to give you a word, and that word is suspense. Have you heard that word before? Say that with me. Suspense. I'm going to take the word and I'm going to put it up here on my Frayer model, right in the middle. Suspense. And let's spell that word together. S-U-S-P-E-N-S-E. Suspense. We have a lot of sounds, don't we? A lot of S sounds. Let's spell it. S-U-S. Sus. Pence. P-E-N-S-E. This word is a noun. We create suspense in mystery. So mysteries that you've read, maybe you've watched a mystery on TV, it's creating suspense. It's high tension, right? So here's our definition. You are absolutely welcome to put this in your own words. Unsure of what will happen. So suspense means that you don't know what's going to happen next. And that's a good mystery. We're going to read a mystery today. And I hope that you're a little bit unsure about what's going to happen and that you use clues to solve it. Because that's what we do in mysteries, right? All right, I didn't give you the clues here for synonym. What do you think are some synonyms? Let's go back to our picture. If we say this is a picture of suspense, can you come up with some words that mean the same? I could say anxiety. That's a long word. I could say a little bit scared or nervous. What about the opposite? So if this little boy were sitting in the couch and he was lounging and watching TV and happy, maybe eating popcorn, that would be the opposite of suspense, wouldn't it? Maybe if you're watching a happy movie or a comedy, you might feel differently. Can you come up with some words in your own mind about what that might say? Say those into your TV. Maybe happy. Maybe excited. Maybe calm. That's a really good antonym for suspense. All right, so after we finish our show, I'd like you to go ahead and finish the sentence and then draw your own picture of what you think suspense is. Say that again with me. Suspense. Can you whisper it? Suspense. Can you say it low? Suspense. How about if you're really scared, you might say it high. Suspense. All right, so that's our word. Let's go on to our next word. And this is a kind of a hard word, I have to tell you. It's a cool word, though, and it definitely relates to our mysteries. So look at this picture. Beautiful, right? This is an actual sky that happens, and I know we have beautiful skies also in New Mexico. This is called the Northern Lights. So this picture is taken in Iceland, country way far away, right? And they experience something called the Northern Lights. And scientists probably can explain this, but there's lots of mysteries around the Northern Lights. And you can see they're very, very beautiful. People take vacations just to see these lights in the sky. So when these happen, I'm going to show you the word on this one because I don't know that you'll guess it, and it's a fun word that I want you to keep using. So our word for Northern Lights, because it's kind of a mysterious, puzzling event that happens, is enigma. Say that with me. Enigma. Say it high. Enigma. How about say it mysteriously? Enigma. Say that again mysteriously, because that's the best one. Enigma. So an enigma is a noun. That means it's a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. Let's go with idea on this one, right? It's an idea. Or it could be a person, or it could be a thing, I guess, that is mysterious, puzzling, or difficult to understand. So, have you ever done a Rubik's Cube? I know some people, I used to have fifth graders that could solve those Rubik's in no time. But I have that's challenging for me. So to me, that's an enigma because I can't do it. It's mysterious. It's puzzling. So that's our word, enigma. Let's spell that together. E-N-I-G-M-A. And we can sound that one out, right? Enigma. Enigma. Some synonyms. And remember, we can go back to the definition to get those synonyms. Puzzle, riddle, or mystery. That's what we're working on today. I gave you some antonyms on this one because I know it's a little tougher word. So things that mean the opposite. Solution. Something that's known or understood. So those are our opposite words from enigma. Say enigma with me one more time. Enigma. All right. So what I want to do with you now is we're going to read a story. And it's a story that's a little bit of an enigma. But you might be able to solve this story. So let's take a look. And you may have seen this story before. So don't yell out your answers if you're sitting with other students on your sofa. Okay, so our story today is titled, Miss Nelson is Missing. Are you ready for your mystery? The story is written by Harry Allard, and it is illustrated by James Marshall. It's published by Scholastic Books. Miss Nelson is missing. So we're going to learn a story as we read this. I want you to do some active listening. That means I would like you to really pay attention to the clues that you might be given in the story and see if you can solve this mystery before we get to the end. The kids in room 207 were misbehaving again. Spitballs stuck to the ceilings. Paper planes whizzed through the air. They were the worst behaved class in the whole school. Now settle down, said Miss Nelson in a sweet voice. But the class would not settle down. They whispered and giggled. They squirmed and made faces. They were even rude during story time. And they always refused to do their lessons. Something will have to be done, said Miss Nelson. The next morning, Miss Nelson did not come to school. That's our first clue right there. Wow, yelled the kids. Now we can really act up. They began to make more spitballs and paper planes. Today, let's be just terrible, they said. Not so fast, hissed an unpleasant voice. A woman in an ugly black dress stood before them. I'm your new teacher, Miss Viola Swamp. And she rapped on the desk with her ruler. Where's Miss Nelson? Asked the kids. Never mind that, snapped Miss Swamp. Open those arithmetic books. Miss Nelson's kids did as they were told. They could see that Miss Swamp was a real witch. She meant business. Right away, she put them to work, and she loaded them down with homework. "We'll have no story hour today," said Miss Swamp. "Keep your mouth shut," said Miss Swamp. "Sit perfectly still," said Miss Swamp. "And if you misbehave, you'll be sorry," she said. The kids in room 207 had never worked so hard. Days went by, and there was no sign of Miss Nelson. The kids missed Miss Nelson. They're looking out the window, like, "Please come back." Where did Miss Nelson go? "Maybe we should try to find her," they said. Some of them went to the police. Detective McSmog was assigned to the case. He listened to their story. He scratched his chin. He said. I think Miss Nelson is missing." Detective McSnog would not be much help. Other kids went to Miss Nelson's house. The shades were tightly drawn, and no one answered the door. In fact, the only person they did see was the wicked Miss Viola Swamp coming up the street. "If she sees us, she'll give us more homework," they said. They got away just in time. "Maybe something terrible happened to Miss Nelson. Maybe she was gobbled up by a shark," said one of the kids. But that didn't seem likely. Sharks, very unpleasant. "Maybe Miss Nelson went to Mars," said another kid. But that didn't seem likely either. "I know," exclaimed one know-it-all. Maybe Miss Nelson's car was carried off by a swarm of angry butterflies." But that was the least likely of all. The kids in room 207 became very discouraged. It seemed that Miss Nelson was never coming back, and they would be stuck with Miss Viola Swamp forever. They heard footsteps in the hall. "Here comes the witch," they whispered. "Hello, children." It was Miss Nelson. "Did you miss me?" she asked. "We certainly did," cried all the kids. "Where were you?" "That's my little secret," said Miss Nelson. "How about a story hour?" "Oh, yes," cried the kids. Miss Nelson noticed that during story hour, no one was rude or silly. "What brought about this lovely change?" she asked. "That's our little secret," said the kids. Back home, Miss Nelson took off her coat and hung it in the closet, right next to an ugly black dress. When it was time for bed, she sang a little song. "I'll never tell," she said to herself with a smile. Let's take a look at that picture because that's got clues. P.S. Detective McSmog is working on a new case. He is now looking for Miss Viola Swamp. Did you guess what was going to happen in that story? So I wanted to revisit something that we did yesterday. If you remember yesterday, we talked a lot about characters and how those are often the most important things in your writing. And when you read the books that you love, you probably love them because you love one of the characters or you identify with that character. Remember we talked about Charlotte and we talked about Wilbur. And Charlotte seemed scary on the outside, right? She had black. She was black and she was an arachnid, right? She's a spider. So spiders can be pretty scary. She had 8 legs that were hairy and she was bloodthirsty, Do you remember that word that we talked about? So Charlotte had these character traits that we might not find to be something that we love, but it turned out that she's the one that saved our little guy Wilbur. So remember, her outside traits were maybe not exactly who we would want, what we want to see as somebody that's going to be the savior, but the inside traits were that she was loyal and that she was strong and that she helped Wilbur overcome the odds. And then we had our little Wilbur, right? Who's a little cute little pink pig. But we realized deep inside that he was young and that he struggled a little bit with his friendship with Charlotte. But then he came around. Remember, he was a little bit lazy too because he just gets his food in a bucket. Charlotte had to work for her food. So remember, we talked about those traits of what we see on the outside and then what we see on the inside. And this book is a perfect example of those outside traits and then the inside traits. And so I wanted to create with you a puppet of Miss Nelson because we have two different personalities, right? So what happened in that story? We had the nice Miss Nelson. Let's take a look at her picture again. We had the very nice teacher who showed up in her class and she tried to read to her students, but they were not listening, were they? And they didn't listen until she became Miss Viola Swamp. And then they started to pay attention. So does that sound like a classroom you've been in? I hope not. But if it is, we know we can always change. But inside, do you think Miss Viola Swamp was really a mean person? Probably not, because who was she? Did you guess that? She was actually our sweet little teacher, right? But our teacher was able to put on some different character traits as well as some clothes on the outside and go into her classroom and get them in shape. And then she was able to put on her sweet little clothes and go back in at the end, and the kids were doing awesome. Look at this picture of her in her bedroom, sort of snickering because she figured out how to change the students in her class to help them learn. So uploaded onto our APS at home is a template. And it's a template of our sweet little Miss Nelson and of our Viola Swamp. So what I'd like to have you do is create a puppet. And we can create one. I'm going to go back. So I have my pink and my yellow. And I'm just going to do a quick, I'm sure you will take a lot more time with this. And you can use crayons if you have them at home, or colors or markers to create our little pink Miss Nelson. She was wearing kind of a pink dress, wasn't she? I'm going to do mine fairly quickly, but you want to take a little bit more time in doing it. It's always fun to have an art project to do. So I'm going to give her some blue eyes. And I saw in the pictures that she had some pink cheeks. So there's my Miss Nelson. But what I'd really like you to do as you color them is to think about those character traits that we saw on these people in our story, because that helps us start thinking about creating our own characters. And so I'm going to take a black, and you can use any color, but I'm going to write some character traits on my puppet so that I can remember. So we know that she was really sweet, wasn't she? She was also very kind. And I think she loved children. However, what did she do when the children misbehaved? We have to remember she's the same person as Miss Viola Swamp. So she got a little tricky, didn't she? She tricked them. Can you think of some other words that would describe Miss Nelson? I'll bet you can. And go ahead and write them on there. And then we can go to our our Miss Viola Swamp. And remember, she was dressed in black. The kids thought she was a real witch from the outside. Do you think she was really a real witch? I'm going to say she was not. Because who was she? She was really our sweet little Miss Nelson. Can you think of some words that describe our Miss Viola Swamp? Let's see what color she must have still had. Did she hide her hair? Let's take a look in the book. Looks like she has dark hair. Maybe she had a wig on, but she still has her pink cheeks, doesn't she? So we'll give her some dark hair too. Wow, she was really dark. How do you think Miss Nelson created this character? Look at her nose. It's pretty long, isn't it? I wonder if she put on some makeup, some stage makeup maybe, to create this character. Okay, so let's think of some words that describe Miss Viola Swamp. And we can go back to the story for that. Poor children. Remember, they had to sit perfectly still. They said she was a real witch and she meant business. Do you want to write witch on here? I'm going to use a different color just so I can see it. I'm going to say strict. Very strict. But she also loved, I'm going to put love students because she wanted them to learn, right? I think she definitely did. I think both of our sweet little ladies did. So now, if you have a scissors, and if you don't, if you need some help with the scissors, please ask a grown-up to do that. I'm going to cut mine out fairly quickly, and you can take your time and do that. I'm going to cut out my swamp lady so that she fits right in the same way. And so sometimes when we do art projects, they help us think about things that we need to know. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're learning when you do that. So that's why I love to do them. So mine are cut out pretty simply. Let me show you. I went ahead and cut out. Let's see if we can lower this so you can kind of see. It's a little bit tricky. These are like, there we go. So I've cut out my Miss Nelson. And then I've cut out my Miss Viola Swamp. And I'm going to go ahead and glue our little ladies together because they are the same person, aren't they? And this is going to remind me that this is the same person with different character traits. So we have the inside traits and we have the outside traits that we might show to the public. If you have glue, that works perfect for this. I wasn't sure mine would dry quite in time. So I'm going to go ahead and I found, if you have a popsicle stick, that works really well for this. I could not find a popsicle stick, so I'm just going to use a plastic cutlery. You could use a pencil, anything you have as a stick. You could even go out to the yard and find a stick, and we can glue that in here. And I'm going to tape that down so that it stays. And then I'm going to put my Miss Nelson on this side. And now I have my evil Miss Viola Swamp and my really sweet Miss Nelson. And you know what you could do? I would love to have you tell a story using your puppet. And then that might make you think about creating a character in the story that you're going to write with Miss Abby. And you could create a puppet for that too. And then you could have a puppet show with your story. So go ahead and create this. This is uploaded into our APS, and you could almost use these same templates if you have a character like that in your story and use it to tell your story also. All right, so that's our puppet for Miss Nelson is Missing. Remember, keep in mind always when you're writing your character traits, what are our characters like on the inside? And then what could they be on the outside? It's amazing. All right, Miss Abby is going to join us next for writing, mystery writing. Have fun with that, students, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, writers. I'm so glad you've had a chance to listen to some mysteries today, to learn vocabulary words about suspense or enigma. We're going to need that today in our writing. We're starting a fresh piece of writing, but I'm using a resource that I've actually been using all week. I'm using the book, The Mysteries of Harris Burdick. This was written and illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg. Inside, it is filled with different ideas for writing. So usually a book gives me one writing idea, but this book gives me many writing ideas. We have uploaded several of these ideas on our website. So if you are thinking, I want to write, I'm not sure what to write, please visit our website and see the resources from The Mysteries of Harris Burdick by Chris Van Allsburg. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to write mysteries. Mysteries are narratives. We have been working on narratives for 2 weeks now. Narratives have elements inside them. Elements are parts. Parts of narratives, they always must have characters. They always must have setting. Narratives always have to have a plot as well. Just to remember about plot, we have this story mountain here. Some of you are so good at this. You understand that stories have to start with an introduction. That's when we introduce characters and settings. Then we begin rising toward the climax, the pivotal moment of no return. Then we begin falling into our resolution. Now, we don't actually fall, but we use writing to show that the story begins to get exciting and then it begins to calm again. Our essential question is, how do authors use narrative elements to write a story? Character, setting, plot. Today, I'm going to teach you some specific elements for writing mystery. It should be fun. Behind me, I have an image of one of the pages. It's called Uninvited Guests, but I've blown it up a little bit so you can see it at home. Take a moment to look at the illustration. There are lots of different pieces to this illustration that are hard to notice. When I show this illustration to my students in the classroom, different students notice different things. Do you notice that there are stairs? I notice there is a foot walking down the stairs. Did you see the small door? That is mysterious. Judging by the size of the person on the stair, the door does not look large enough for a human to walk through. Why is the door there? What is on the other side of the door? What else do you notice? Did you see the ice skate? Usually, ice skates come in pairs of 2. Where's the other ice skate? I noticed that there's some paint. I noticed it almost looks like a rug rolled up in the corner. A small window where the light is beaming down on the small door. I noticed a stack of perhaps newspapers at the base of the stairs. It's very dark. It's very mysterious on purpose. So I figured this would be an ideal story to use for mystery writing today. In the book, The Mysteries of Harris Burnick, we're just given 2 sentences and a title. The title of this story is Uninvited Guests. Uninvited guests. Well, guests are people that come to your home, but these are uninvited. They were not asked to come. Then we're given 2 sentences. His heart was pounding. He was sure he had seen the doorknob turn. So he is not turning the doorknob. He saw the doorknob turn. I feel this is perfect for turning into mystery writing. In a mystery, we have to ask questions. Who is on the other side of that door? What is on the other side of the door? Is that a danger to the man walking down the stairs? Is this going to be a happy surprise? A terrifying surprise? A deadly surprise? Ooh, we could get dark with this. The title is Uninvited Guests. I've had uninvited guests at my home before. Sometimes they were wonderful to see. Sometimes they were okay, trying to sell me something. Sometimes they were Girl Scouts selling me cookies. Wonderful. But I don't think there's Girl Scouts on the other side of this door. My main question, who is the uninvited guest? It says guests. So let's start thinking. The suspects could be mice. Mice could be on the other side of the door. I don't think mice can really turn the door. So we'll have to go deeper into the fiction, the imagined side of this, where we have something that can turn a door handle. Then we have to try to imagine who is the main investigator. In a mystery, there's always someone trying to find the truth. We're going to call that person the investigator. Now, in the book, they did not give us a name. They did not give us very much. But Chris Van Allsburg gave us suspense. Let's try and turn this into a mysterious story. In your writer's notebook, I would like you to turn to a fresh page. Inside your writer's notebook, we need to have some elements of mystery. Narratives have elements, and mysteries have even more elements. The first thing we need to figure out in any mystery is who is the investigator. Investigator. Who is trying to find the answers? The next thing we need to write is who is the suspect? Who do we think is behind the mystery? Because this is a narrative, we still need a plot. We still need a beginning, a middle, and an end. And because it wouldn't be fun without it, we need some clues. So before I write, you may already know this, I like to organize my ideas. I like to get some things settled in my brain first, and then when it comes time to write them into paragraphs, they come flowing. So let's take a little bit of time and imagine what these areas could be. You are welcome to go rogue. Rogue means you're going off on your own. That is okay with me. You can also copy what I'm writing down because our stories will still naturally be different. Ready? I have to start with my investigator. I just need to imagine a character. Last time I said my character's name was Henry. Today, my character, Bob. My investigator is going to be Bob. I don't know why. Bob just came to my mind. Did it come to yours too? Wouldn't that be neat? Now, Bob suspects that there are fairies on the other side. Bob has never seen a fairy. I'm making this up in my head right now. Bob has never seen a fairy. But he knows that this door is about the size. But you know what? I want to add in some suspense, some scariness. So I'm going to add some elements of darkness. He thinks these fairies might be coming to take him away. But in the end, it just turns out they're friendly. He doesn't know that yet. So he thinks the suspect are going to be evil fairies. The clues that tell him this: he hears small voices. Kind of shrill sounding. He also hears a language that is not his natural. Because I speak English, I'm going to say that Bob speaks English, and this is not English, but it's also not Spanish or French. It's something he's not familiar with. I will say an unfamiliar language. Another clue that this might be a fairy is the small door. The small door is not large enough for a human to fit through. So he's thinking the worst. This must be an evil fairy clan. With our plot, we have to build the suspense. Suspense. It builds. When you are home and you're scared, what are some ways that your body feels? Just the other day, I was home and I thought I heard something. What I did was I turned my head and I listened carefully. Instead of just saying, I listened, I turned my head and I listened carefully. I squinted my eyes and tried to see if I could hear better. That is a way of showing what the character does instead of telling. I want to show suspense. I want my reader to be able to picture exactly what my character is doing. So when I'm feeling scared, I try to listen deeper. I turn my chin, I lift my ear, and I close my eyes to see if I can hear. My character, I'm going to make him do the same thing. Bob heard. Unfamiliar. Small. Voices. He turned his chin to the side. He closed his eyes. What did he do next? He lifted his ear to hear better. Now I'm going to add a question. Is that English? I'll put quotations because I want the character to say it out loud. Is that, I'll say that again, almost like he is stuttering. Is that English? Bob said out loud. Oh, how about Bob whispered? That sounds even more suspenseful. No, it can't be. So I have a character who's feeling nervous. The character is trying to figure out the mystery. He's investigating. But he has clues that this is not going to end up well. I said I wanted to show that Bob, the character, heard small voices in an unfamiliar language. Now let's talk about the small door. Writers, if you've noticed, I don't always write in order. What I like to do is I like to write exciting parts and then I fit it into the rest of my story. So I can write around this. I can show that maybe this will be my paragraph 3 because I'm about to get to my climax where he opens the door. And now is the point of no return. He cannot unsee what he saw. What I hope you see are small ways to add excitement to your writing. Of course, you don't have to write just like I do. but I hope you begin to show suspense. I'm going to continue adding suspense. I'm going to lift the line from Chris Van Allsburg because this is the epitome of suspense. It's so suspenseful. It says his heart was pounding. My heart is pounding when I feel scared. Bob heard unfamiliar small voices. He turned his chin to the side. He closed his eyes. He lifted his ear to hear better. Is that English? Bob whispered. No, it can't be. Bob continued walking down the stairs. He stopped. His heart was pounding. I'm going to take it right from the text. His heart was pounding. Friends, your heart does not pound when you are calm. Your heart pounds when you are filled with suspense because there is an enigma. There's a mystery around you. He stopped. His heart was pounding. He squinted. To see better. He was sure he had seen the door turn. He was sure he had seen the doorknob. Turn. What could be on the other side of the door? If he's thinking that, I'm going to put that in my writing. What could be on the other side? Of that small door? Bob did not want any danger, but he needed to continue investigating. Writers, I'm going to continue writing this at home. When you are writing your mysteries, remember, you need an investigator. The case of the missing shoe. Who's going to find the missing shoe? You need a suspect. Who done it? You need plot, filled with suspense and clues, of course. To show suspense, we want to show, what does the body feel like? Is it sweating? Is it pounding? Is it squinting? Then we can get ourselves toward the end. At home tonight, I hope you can find a mystery to read. Most of the mysteries I like to read are chapter books, but there's a lot of great ones. Cam Jansen, Horrible Harry, even the mixed up files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. I might have said that wrong. Continue investigating, writers. Write stories, read stories, and have a great night. We will see you tomorrow. More writing, more reading, and more fun. Thank you for learning with us at home at APS.